What's up guys, Adrian here, and today I wanted to talk about my gender identity journey. I recently asked people on my Instagram to ask me questions they would like to see me answer, and one of them was, how did you know that you were trans? Which is more of a story than a quick and easy answer. So where does the story begin? Probably earlier than I actually realized, but the question, am I trans, happened when I was 15. Let's get into it. So when I was 15, I was in a relationship with a guy. It wasn't healthy and it was kind of about to end. This relationship isn't too important, but it did make things difficult because he was a straight man and I didn't align with the femininity I felt like I needed to in order to maintain a straight high school relationship. So I was already feeling like I didn't fit in anywhere. And then add on the fact that I was finding trans educators on YouTube, which made me question things even more. But this didn't start the full-on gender identity crisis. That started when I was in health class, my sophomore health class. So we were in class, I was sitting next to my best friend, and we were watching this video where about a trans boy whose parents socially transitioned him when he was young. It was a very emotional and very, wholesome story, and I was, getting emotional watching it. But I also felt like I related to the story in some way that I didn't fully understand until my friend leaned over to me and said, "Hey, that's like you. You're a boy trapped in a girl's body." Cue full-on gender identity crisis. Something clicked, and I was like, wait, that's why I was getting emotional. That's what I related to. I am a boy trapped in a girl's body. So I started researching, and I talked to friends. Got a support system there. I talked to my parents, talked to my doctor. So things were getting figured out, but things were kind of put on hold because I was young. My mom didn't want me to rush into things. She wanted me to think about it because it's a new thing. So I did think about it. It was also put on hold because I had just been diagnosed with a hormone imbalance. So, 15 was a difficult time. So when I was 16, I don't fully remember junior year. It's kind of a blur. A lot happened. But I remember kind of being like, I was suppressing my feelings. Like, I was very much trying to be like, nope, get away from me. Like, I don't want to think about it. I remember being so excited that I was the only girl in my television broadcasting class junior year. Because that meant that I had more of a chance to be treated like one of the boys. And, it was great. I loved all the guys in there. It was a lot of fun, enjoyed the class. But there was always the, okay, boys and girl. Yeah. So I always said, like, hey, you can just say, okay, boys. Like, I don't really care. And, I feel uncomfortable being, like, singled out. Like, I don't know, I kept saying that and like, oh, I feel uncomfortable because you're singling me out, because you're pointing to me and like being like, boys, oh, and girl, because, this person is not, I don't know, it doesn't fit in the group. So I always said that is why I didn't like, them singling me out. But in reality, I just didn't feel comfortable with the term girl. I was still pushing away any feelings of like, oh, you're trans, but at the same time, it was like, it was screaming at me. Like, I don't know how it didn't happen. Like, I don't know how, like, I didn't figure it out sooner. Like, I don't know why I took as long as I did. Like, I kind of do, but I kind of don't at the same time. Like, it was just there, and I just kept pushing it away as much as I could, to the point where it was debilitating, and I wish I did something sooner because I feel like life would have been a lot easier. But anyways, thing. It was just, it was a rough year, annoying. A lot of things happened during junior year. One of those things that was good at the time was a boy in my grade asked me out. A straight boy asked me out. And I made it as clear as I could at the time that I wasn't fully certain of my gender. I guess I was like, hey, I'm kind of confused. My gender could change throughout our relationship. You cool with that? And, he was very supportive, and he was understanding and supportive as he could be with the amount of, I can't speak, with the amount of information that, I could give him at the time. Because, I couldn't, I had a support system. I had supportive people, and I occasionally did talk to him about it, but I felt like I couldn't talk about my struggles with being trans, and I had to, fight off others and myself on my own because I just didn't know how to talk about it. It was there, I understood my feelings in a sense, but not in a way where I could communicate them to someone who wasn't experiencing exactly what I was at the time. So, I don't know, it was just all so new and confusing and scary. But to skip through my relationship with this boy, we dated for 2.5 years. In the last year or so, we talked about the possibility that we wouldn't always be in a relationship, in a romantic relationship. Because he was straight, and I was leaning more towards feeling like a guy. And then I came out, and medically transitioning seemed plausible. So we talked and decided that it would be best if we stopped being a couple. We were still friends, and he's still a big supporter. We're just not romantically involved anymore, which is fine. He's honestly, it was a thing of, it wasn't that he was uncomfortable with me being trans. It was the fact that he was straight, he dates girls. He even said, he was like, that I date girls, and you're not a girl. So the way, it hurt both of us. It was a hard thing to do because we both still love each other. But it was in a way a compliment. Because, I'll tell him, oh, yeah, these guys are harassing me, because guys harass women. And he was like, yeah, but you're a man. And I was like, thank you. Thank you for the reminder. Others don't see it that way. But yeah, so he's extremely supportive, and we're still best friends. And I love him, and I appreciate him for everything that he's done for me. So yeah, moving on to senior year. So my senior year is when COVID happened, quarantine. So actually, can I say the C word? We'll figure it out. We'll find out. But yeah, so quarantine. I'm not gonna go through all of it because, so I came out as gender fluid because I just needed to come out as something. My process was weird. It was coming out as a man? No. Coming out as gender fluid? Easier. Even though, a lot of people, especially, non-binary gender fluid, people, gender non-conforming people, find it difficult to come out as something that's not in the gender binary. For me, it was well, if I come out as a man, straight up, hey, I'm your son now, he, him pronouns, I'm a dude. And then it was a lot of self-doubt. I was thinking, and then I changed my mind. Then, I don't know, I was just, I was terrified of coming out. Because I had a lot of self-doubt. I didn't trust myself fully. So I was like, hey, gender fluid, any pronouns, haha. And then everyone was just using she, her pronouns. So yeah, backfired. But yeah, so I came out as gender fluid. My parents were supportive. And, I was still figuring stuff out. And then I finally went to college. And I remember this was the first time I was really asked what pronouns I used. I was doing homework with my friend in his room, and he was like, hey, by the way, what pronouns do you use? And I looked at him and I was like, he, him, I think? And he was like, you think? And I was like, I don't know. And he was like, do you want me to use he, him pronouns for now? And I was like, yeah, sure. So then I was using he, him pronouns, and then I met another friend, and he was like, hey, what pronouns? I was like, yeah, he, him. And he was like, okay, cool. Uh, and yeah, it was weird, because, like, in my town, it's a very small town. Everyone knows everyone, and it's also just, it's closed-minded. It's a small town in New Hampshire, which I go to school in a small town in New Hampshire, but it's more like you walk into town and there's pride flags. Like, they're selling pride flags in stores, and, you know, it's a lot more open and accepting than my small town. So yeah, I went to college, and I found this group of friends that were extremely supportive. I mean, I was in a film hallway, so it's kind of hard to find film people who aren't supportive, or are like, even in the community. Like, I remember all the girls in my hallway were a part of the LGBTQ plus community in some way, shape, or form. So that was cool. And there was also a trans girl in my hallway, so I got to talk to her. And yeah, it was a new experience. It was just kind of like, I got to college thinking, like, I'm still figuring this out. Oh my god, it's gonna be so stressful. And then I was like, he, him pronouns. And they're like, okay, cool. And then that's when I realized, I was like, oh shit. I'm trans. So yeah, I just kind of took, so basically at school, he, him pronouns. At home, she, her pronouns, because I wasn't out. I still was struggling with coming out, even though I knew my parents would be supportive. I guess it was just like the transition for like them. Like, I knew that was gonna be difficult because I'm their only child. And for 19 years, they knew me as, you know, my old name and old pronouns. And it was just, I don't know, I was just nervous about, like, the transition for them because I knew it was gonna be weird for all of us. And I don't know, I don't know if anyone else can, like, relate to that, but just feeling, like, guilty for changing, like, your pronouns and name and stuff. And, like, my parents are so supportive. Like, my, like, name and pronouns were really fast. Like, right now, they're hardly slipping up anymore. And I've only been out since May. And, like, you know, I started testosterone. They went to my appointment. Like, extremely supportive. I was just, I don't know, I felt guilty. I was nervous about the rest of the family, even though I knew that they would be supportive. Like, I was just really scared, and I didn't know, like, I was still finding kind of my grounding. So I spent my first semester just kind of figuring that out. And then I went home for a 3-month break, which was long, and, you know, I kept hearing she, her pronouns, and it was a lot. And then I went back to school, and I was like, I need to figure out how to come out. So I started therapy. And I did one session with my therapist, just talking to her, and I was really dysphoric one night. I texted my friend, and then I woke up, and he had texted me. I was like, hey, can you call me? And he was like, yeah, let me just, like, have breakfast, take a shower, and I'll call you. And he called me, and I went, I'm coming out to my dad today. And he was like, what? He was like, when did that happen? And I was like, I just need to come out. And he was like, okay, sure. So he was on the phone with me the whole time as I'm texting my dad, this, like, whole thing of, like, hey, I'm trans, like, I love you, and, like, this, and, like, this and that, like, he, him pronouns. And my dad, you know, he was like, his first thing was, have you talked to your therapist about it? And I was like, kind of, I'm gonna, like, you know, update her on more. And he was like, yeah, I think that's a good place to start. And I was like, okay. And he was like, yeah. So it was just like, you know, it was just a normal thing. Like, it was just like, oh, have you talked to your therapist about that? I think you should talk to your therapist about that. But then he was like, we're always on your side. Like, we love you. And then I asked him, because I had game night that night with my friends. I was like, hey, can you tell mom, like, show her this stuff when she gets home from work? He did. She texted me. She was like, I love you. I think that's a great place to start. Like, you know that we always, like, have your back. And then I started slowly coming out to more and more family members, and then I kind of got sick of coming out because I was like, I don't want to have that anxiety every time I pick up the phone to, like, call a family member, so I just posted on Instagram. and I got overwhelming support. So yeah, I started questioning when I was 15, and then finally when I was 18, I came out. And then over the summer, I figured out that I liked the name Adrian. I went to school and started going by the name Adrian, and then now I'm gonna go into my second semester of sophomore year of college on testosterone. So I guess that's my coming out story. It's a long story. I didn't want to just say like, oh yeah, I came out when I was 18. There was a lot that led up to that day where I finally was like, no, this is me. Like, I'm taking back my life, basically, because I just kind of did whatever made others feel comfortable and always put my feelings last. So I finally figured out when I went to college that, like, I didn't feel good and I needed to do what made me feel like me and made me feel happy. And being my true authentic self is what makes me happy. So I finally came out thanks to my awesome friends at college, my support system at home. I'm still kicking. I'm still figuring stuff out, still going, day by day, but things are getting increasingly better than they were when I was 15. And I'm truly thankful for that. So I guess I just want, other trans individuals possibly struggling with their identity, just know that it's a journey. It's not a thing that's just like, it doesn't happen overnight, which I know you probably hear that all the time, and it's frustrating, but it doesn't happen overnight, and that's okay. Taking your time with something like this is okay. Being scared, not feeling confident, not being able to trust yourself right away, that is okay. I dealt with that. I'm sure so many other trans individuals have dealt with that. And it's scary, but it's okay. And again, I'm always here. I love you. Keep your head up, and I will see you next time. Peace out.